Yo, guys, what's going on? We're down at Direct Shoes. I'm here down here with my boy Mike G. We got Kristin Kauffman on, and today's my birthday. And we're hanging out, and I got my 3 a.m. workout. And if you need to work out and stay in shape, fight age, just go down to the work set, and they'll hook you up, man, with $15 membership. Yeah, you can't beat that. Kristin, how's it going, my girl?
It's great. How are you guys?
Oh yeah, we're rocking along down here in Tampa, Florida. The weather's good. By the way, what is the weather up there in Cincinnati? What's the weather like?
60 today, but cloudy, no warmth in sight, really. So send some of that sunshine our way.
You don't get to see the sun that often right now. That's all right. Well, let me ask you a question though. With all the storms in the Midwest, and are you guys kind of feeling any of that stuff, or is it just like you guys got a nor'western? You got a lot of snow, or what? What's going on?
Our meteorologists are really good at telling us we're getting stuff that we never get. So.
Hey, I like when we're here. We get sunshine, then it rains, sunshine. So it works itself out. So let me ask you a question. So I know you hail from Cincinnati, and I was picking on you a little bit earlier about the Bengals and stuff. But overall, what's your profession, and how long have you been in it?
So this is my 20th year in education. I taught French for 18 years, and then this is my second year as an assistant principal at a high school of about 2,000 kids.
Oh, parlez français. Huh?
Bonjour.
Bonjour.
Je ne sais pas. I don't know.
That's what you said. I don't know.
Hey, so, as your role has evolved, what made you get into education? Was it something you wanted to do, or was it like you started in another career field and then you migrated to that?
Yeah, so I got my bachelor's in journalism from Ohio University, got a job at Men's Health magazine, and 2 days before I was supposed to go, called them and said, I've always wanted to be a teacher. I think I'm just going to go ahead and do that. So they were like, best of luck, deuces. And I was easily replaceable, so I didn't feel terrible. And I immediately started a dual master's certification program in education and really started teaching right away.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, actually, I started out in journalism also, and then I migrated over to history because I thought I was going to be a lawyer. And then, I was like, I better really get a job because that's more money. So I ended up going in the military for a little bit. It is what it is.
Yeah.
Totally understand. So let me ask you a question. Since you made that transition, what were some of the biggest challenges that you faced going into education, at the beginning, and kind of like now as you see yourself evolve? You're a different person. You said, you've been in a while. So what was your expectations at the beginning, and how do you see yourself now?
At the beginning of my career, I really thought that my love for French would just carry me through. Like if I loved it, everyone else would love it. And I quickly learned that education is about people, not about content. And so I think that has really shaped me as an educator. And even in this role as an assistant principal, like, yes, I want my students to pass their classes, but at the end of the day, it's more important about who they are, what they want to do, how I can help them. Not to jump ahead, but as you know, the mental health crisis right now is real, and making sure that my students are of sound mind to get through is really the most important part of what I do right now.
I just knocked down a study, and because I teach high school, I was doing A push. Now I teach honors. This is my last year, but I just did it for like a 3-year period. But the one thing that you touched on mental health, and I'm glad you did touch on that, because that is definitely something that's just not affecting high school students. I mean, it's even affecting the millennial population overall. So being a historian, I did a little research, and it seems like the era from 75, people that were born like 75 onward to like, I think 80, I wanted to say 84. It's been this big issue of people just dealing with things, but they say some of it was upbringing, some of it was just that transition from analog to computers. But there's a lot. The world is a lot more complex, I think. I mean, what's your perspective? I mean, I think the world's a lot more complex than it was back in the 80s.
I just think we're exposed to so much more because of technology, because we see what other people are doing, and we constantly reflect and judge ourselves for not doing enough, for not being good enough in certain aspects. And I think that's really taken its toll, especially on students. We talk about social media all the time. It's a huge issue. It is the root of 95% of the things that I deal with. And so that in and of itself, I think is number one.
Oh yeah, the high school cancel culture is unbelievable. The self-esteem, even with adults, they did a study a couple months ago, and they were just talking about middle-aged women, and they were talking about, you have shows like The Housewives, you have all these shows that are on TV that are impacting middle-aged women, and it's translating down to high school students because everybody is judging every. We had Vogue magazine in the '80s, and and all these other different magazines that affected girls weight wise, right? So we had everybody's fighting with their weight back in the '80s because of those magazines. But I think social media is just a bigger beast in general because it just doesn't affect the high school students. It affects. I mean, in the military it was affecting people. So I think as we go forward, there needs to be some ethics on it, possibly. But in the bigger picture, mental health in America has become, I think, is it more awareness now because people are talking about it, or as opposed to back in the day, nobody said anything. Just suck it up and you'll be okay. Do you think it's because we're addressing it more, Mike, or what do you guys think?
Well, I think social media is going to grow, and grow more. It's not going anywhere, just like an AI, so forth and so on. So, yeah, you guys are right. I don't know. How do you build the patient, Christine? How do you build the patient to become a principal? Because I know that's challenging.
Years in the classroom.
Yeah. You built a tough skin, huh?
Oh my gosh, yes. And I think the hardest transition for me was not like I could deal with the stuff kids throw at me, but now I also have to deal with what our teachers and adults and parents and the community throws at us. And that was really the hardest transition for me is not being loved, which is fine. That's not what I'm here to be. But I'm sure going to try really hard to make sure that other people feel that way, feel loved.
Yeah, accountability is one of the bigger challenges. And then, okay, Mike knows I live in this a very affluent neighborhood a little bit, and every time a teacher has a moment, they have no problem going on Facebook.
Oh.
And the comments come, and they come in droves. So you talked about some of your biggest challenges of the transition, and you talk about being a people person, right? So students are cool. So as you deal with the transition of being a leader now, and that's a big difference coming out of the classroom, and now that you are in what I consider a major leadership role, because you potentially could become a superintendent. How do you navigate on the leadership? What's your leadership style? And then how do you kind of, navigate understanding the different personalities of the people that work with you so you can have a little bit of cohesiveness?
I'm on a team of 5. So there's 4 assistant principals and a principal, and we all bring something different to the table. I'm the empathetic one. So I'm the one that thinks of the ways that we can make our staff feel that we care about them, right? Like bringing in coffee trucks, writing them handwritten notes, all of the things that make people feel seen. That is what I feel my role is, and that's kind of where I excel. In terms of being able to communicate with different people, like that's a lot of observation and trial and error. So you go in one way and you're like, holy, this is not working. Let's change the tactic. But I also think that comes from years of experience just communicating with students and parents as a teacher. Like I only feel you can't just jump into this role with nothing, right? Like you've got to have something something in your toolbox to bring and help you out. So I've got 18 years of that, 19 years now, and that has really helped me.
All right. So what are some of so Colin Powell is like one of the big people that I kind of leverage on. I read some of his stuff, and I kind of leverage, a little bit of Martin Luther King's writings, and then I go through some current, motivational speakers. I love David Goggins. So as you going through, who are some of the people that influenced you? Who are some of the people that kind of we all mold ourselves after our parents to some degree, but also people that just came, that got in our way along the way to kind of, knock us on the back of the head to tell us, hey, this is how I think you should be doing it. So, what are some of the people, who are some of the people, and what are some of the books or something that you kind of use to mold who you are today?
So I love Brene Brown. I love Glennon Melton. I love Jess Sims from Peloton.
Yeah.
It's in the back of my mind all the time. I had my very first principal teaching. His name was Mark Farmer. He was a remarkable man. He would go around and he'd get there at 4 a.m. and go to every classroom door and pray for the teachers and the students in that classroom.
Awesome.
I didn't know that until years later, and it just spoke to the kind of leader that I would want to be. Just somebody who is truly empathetic and caring and is about the people first.
Yeah, because you're in a selfless service business, and I tell people that all the time. When you're dealing with especially today, that's just not the school system. It's just that the amount of things that are just happening in general. I told my students the other day, asked me, and they were like, well, "What bothers you the most?" I said, when I went to school in the '80s, and then when I was in elementary school in the late '70s, we never had to worry about anybody coming to harm us. We never had to worry about a lot of things. I said, when we came to school, it was like, playtime, you were with your friends. It was like a time of enjoyment. I said, I just see the tension that you guys have when you come to school and you're stressed about learning and the pressure on you all to make straight A's. I said, it was like 7-0, let us go, get a C and you're happy. I said, the amount of pressure on you guys, I said, it's unbelievable. And so you have to keep learning. So as you're going forward, are you kind of mentoring some of the junior teachers that you think you see that possibly could be administrators later? Are you kind of like having like a mentor sessions or something at the school?
I'm not specifically doing that, but now that you say that, yes, there are teachers at the school that I feel like I have conversations with where I'm pushing them. Just not pushing, gently nudging into administration, into leadership roles. Maybe not directly into administration, but hey, why don't you take on this role and lead this group, this club, this whatever.
Yeah, me and Mike talk about this all the time because where he works at and the things that I do. But I always tell my students that we got to get past the point of thinking everything's for pay. I told them that all the experience I have in life, if I was to have gotten paid for it, I'd be a millionaire. But the experience I got in life is that you can't put a price tag on when you're getting experience. And I say sometimes getting experience or things that you do for hard work will benefit you down the road. You just can't see. It's like education. I always tell them all the time, you can't see the value of education until you have it. When you don't have it down the road, then you'll realize it when you're in that circle of people having those discussions. So what are some of your biggest successes and what are some of your biggest failures do you think in your life that you kind of go back and say, man, I wish I'd have done that differently? Well, this opportunity worked, opened the door and I walked in and I got lucky because I decided to go ahead and walk through that door.
Right. I feel like I failed a lot. When I was in high school, I got cut from my soccer team going into high school. So didn't even make the high school team.
Wow.
But I know it was terrible. It wasn't though, right? Hindsight's beautiful because that whole summer I spent running and I'd never run before because I was trying to get in shape for the team. And then that turned me into a runner. And then I don't know if you guys do Enneagrams. I'm an Enneagram 3. I am very intrinsically motivated. If you give me a goal, I'm going to go do it. So I got this wild idea a few years ago that I wanted to be a bodybuilder. So I spent 3 years not going to social events, not eating all of the things that I love to eat, spending 2 or 3 hours in the gym a day. And I did it. I did 3 times. I walked across that stage and I posed and I, whatever.
So did you do, and I'm big into that. So did you do figure or did you do bodybuilding?
I'm tiny, I'm petite. I did the lowest division is bikini division, the smallest. So that was, yes, that was me. My husband hated it. He hated that I did that because it took me away from all of the things. But it was good for me to prove to myself, like, you are capable of doing that. And that's hard work. So
that's a discipline.
That's discipline. Yes, for sure. But when I got this job as an assistant principal, I wasn't ready. I wasn't quite finished with my education for it. I didn't quite have everything for it, but I got the call and they said, we think you're ready. So why don't you go ahead and do it? And that's this whole, like, again, to quote Jess Sims, ready is not a feeling. It's a decision. It's a choice. So you got to choose to be ready. We try to communicate that a lot with our staff. Like, you may not feel ready for this, but you got to choose to be ready. You got to give it a shot. You got to trust us. And building that trust with adults is really hard too. If I can build trust with our current staff, I feel like that will be a huge accomplishment.
Oh, great. Mike, what do you got, man?
Well, I'm still surprised she did bodybuilding. That was from left field.
Sorry.
Well, yeah, just so we talked about the patients and stuff with the thick skin. What do you see? What do you makes you happy in your role as assistant principal? I know you see a lot of things. You talk to a
Yeah.
lot of people. It's an ups and downs and all around type of days. I'm pretty sure. So what motivates you to keep it moving? Because it's not an easy job.
I mean, coffee helps.
There it
Coffee
is.
makes me really happy. I love, I had a student that I have a couple of students that I had to put as seniors on like a special plan to get them to graduate. There was no way that they were going to graduate this year. Putting them on that plan and just crossing my fingers, and then like they've already done it. They did it, like they finished in March. Huge. That's not my accomplishment. That's theirs. But my God, does that make me so happy that I was able to help put them on the right path. Talking to teachers who see success in the classroom, who invite me in so that I can be a part. There are a lot of things I miss about the classroom. I miss the creativity involved. When they invite me in, like it's not just me knocking on the door, asking to come in, like that's huge. That makes me so happy to be in the classroom with the kids. All of our administration team does lunch duty. We are out there sweeping the floors and mopping the tables and interacting with the kids there. Even giving them that mom look when they're being too loud, like just having those interactions with kids is really joyful for me.
Yeah, I know the John Wooden sweeping the floor. I tell my students all the time, if you can't do the little things, it's going to be hard to do the bigger things.
Yeah.
So let me ask you a question. So what motivates you in the morning? Besides, because you run, and you did bodybuilding, which me and Mike didn't see that one coming. So I'm going to give you that one because I honestly tell you that's a discipline that probably only like 1% people have, because the diet by itself is a beast, but just the dedication and the hours. And a lot of people, they have no idea. They've never tried to even do it for a month, to do it for a year. Just because even me, I go to the gym every morning at 3 a.m. And trust me, everybody thinks I'm crazy or Luke, because Mike could be turning over on his bed to get his next sleep in. So what motivates you in the morning?
I don't work out in the morning anymore. So once I left the bodybuilding world behind, like I had to make some changes for myself to be happy. So I'm definitely an evening workout person now. Again, coffee, I will do anything for coffee. But when I get home from work, I have to have that outlet. I have to go sweat. I have to go lift heavy things. I have to go like just process my day that way. And that is my motivation. If I don't get to do it, there is a huge difference in my mentality. I had a back injury right before Christmas, and I was just cleared to start doing stuff again at the end of February. So I spent about 10 weeks walking on a treadmill. That was all I was allowed to do. And that is not the same release as running, getting your heart pumping, picking up heavy stuff. There was a definite difference in my persona and how I interacted with people, just because I didn't have any place for that stress and anxiety to go.
So if you don't get the grind, see, it's like me, I'm grouchy if I don't go work out. So I'm just going to call it what it is. Yeah. So, since you've learned all of this and you've been through a lot of things, if you could do this all over again, and with what you know now, would you still choose the same profession, or would you think you would follow a different route down the road? And it's one of those things, like I always tell people, everybody asks me, well, you did 30 years in the military. I said, but the advantage is that I did something before I went in the military. So I had an opportunity to kind of test another world before I went into that world. And now me and Mike are doing this podcast. So, you see yourself now, and you said you were a journalist. Would you be that that combat journalist running all over the world and Iraq, like, hey, this is Kristin Kauffman. I'm down here in Afghanistan.
I look the part, so why not? Mm-hmm. I had that opportunity. I had wonderful internships in my journalism career. I was in New York City for a summer. I got to challenge the editor of Rolling Stone, like just call him out on some BS stuff that he published. Like I did it. I didn't like it. So I made the right choice for me. I had that other major, that other career, not career, but opportunity. And I chose not to take it. And that was the right choice for me, for sure.
Oh, we're rock and roll. Hey, Mike, what you got, man? Before we had to get out of here, man,
It's a pleasure meeting you, Chrissy. You're very interesting. I mean, from principal to bodybuilder, from reporter to you've been around the world. I mean, you've done many things, and it's good that you landed into something that you feel comfortable doing for the rest, of retirement days. I mean, you look young still, so you still have many, 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 many years. Pleasure meeting you, though.
Thank you. You as well.
Hey, look a lot younger than me. That's for sure. Hey, so what advice, if when this podcast rolls and someone's watching it now, what advice would you give some young, not just young people, but young adults on what they should do? Because you laid out a very beautiful journey of your life, and somebody starting out, what advice would you give?
I think I'd say 3 things. Number 1, it's okay to change your mind. Number 2, it's okay to step back. It's okay to take pressure off of yourself. It's okay to give yourself a break. And number 3, that favorite quote, being ready is not a feeling. It's a decision that you make. You got to choose to do that.
Oh, absolutely. You know what? But I feel a lot of people are scared to jump. They're scared to make decisions in their life. Me and Mike get constantly badgered about, hey, what's your mantra for your podcast? And, we always say our mantra is to be a positive person, to make a difference in the world. And Kristin, I appreciate you coming on today. It was a blessing. You were awesome the day before Easter. You rocked it. And we really appreciate it. And we're going to hook this up and get it out so you can share it on your social media. And maybe, hopefully, it impacts some young person's lives to make them say, you know what, I can do that too. And be a bodybuilder. Right, Mike?
Right.
And with that being said, Mike Kauffman said, keep it rolling.